All right, so mabuhay, salamat petang, salamat siang, ni hao, good afternoon. Such a lovely afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Interpreting Turnitin's AI Writing Report webinar. My name is Nina Victorio, and I'm based in Manila, Philippines. And I'm also with my brilliant co-presenter here, Miss Cynthia Ong, who is based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So, we are part of the customer onboarding team here at Turnitin, and we're joined by our esteemed colleagues who are ready to answer your questions in the Q&A panel promptly. Also, we have our colleagues based in Indonesia and Malaysia. So please do not hesitate to ask questions in Bahasa Indonesia or Bahasa Malay. Okay, so clickable links to resources will be shared via chat, and QR codes are available for those who are watching recording. And since this is a webinar format with microphones muted, please submit your questions through the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And let's have the tips for today. A resource pack after this session will be sent out, which includes the session's recording and a wealth of resources we will mention. Also, to keep the session interactive, we encourage you all to ask questions throughout the session. Keep an eye out of the poll too. So we'll be sharing one during the webinar. And if you do have any questions or perhaps clarifications after this webinar, send us email as seasia-onboarding@turnitin.com. After today's webinar, we hope you'll be able to interpret the Turnitin AI Writing Report. Harness Turnitin Feedback Studio Suite for teachers to give you information about your student submission. And lastly, understand next steps to foster student success if something doesn't look right. So as we welcome more than 1,000 attendees in the session, it is rightful for us to set expectations when you access your Turnitin tools. And initially, you will see the similarity report, which the text matches against the 3 standard repositories of Turnitin: the students writing repository, internet sources, and academic journals and publications. It is designed to answer the question of, have all similarity matched been correctly attributed to their original sources? And then there is the AI report. The AI report detects likely AI-generated text and AI-generated text that has been paraphrased. This is used to ensure that any AI-generated content is in line with your task expectation for the assessment. And please note that this is the report will focus on this webinar. Now, some of the features that we will show you today are new features that will be released in the coming weeks. We'll be speaking about these new features, but don't worry, the core functionality and button clicks are still the same. So now let's begin by talking about generative AI. Okay, so generative AI is an emerging class of technology that can create content in forms of digital text, images, videos, audio, and even codes. And today's session will focus specifically on AI-generated text. So how does it work? It works by building sentences word by word, asking itself what most probable word is to use in the sentence. Generative AI achieves this through statistical analysis of a massive library of text data. Interestingly, it understands patterns in relationship within languages. So in short, it learns patterns from existing data to create or generate entirely new content. So we can imagine it like this. I am the teacher, and my student wants to learn how to create a thesis. So me, as a teacher, I might show them, let's say, 5 different examples of thesis. This means encouraging them to study and learn how these theses were created. Perhaps look at each sections and even understand the kind of content that goes into it. Then, of course, the student will then be able to understand how to create a thesis. So now imagine if we are sharing 500 to 5,000 theses with a student. And that is just basically how generative AI learns to create a new content. And we all know that ChatGPT is just one popular example of generative AI. There are many other AI writing tools available right now, but well, they are using the similar approach in general. So here is the example of how ChatGPT works. So the student will type their prompt in the box, which can be a form of question, just like what I have here, or let's say an instruction or anything that provides a context for what the student wants. So I have here like write a 400-word essay about artificial intelligence or emotional intelligence. Then ChatGPT will then generate an instant response and the student will get the final output. And we can say that this might be considered as the inappropriate use of generative AI. So there you go. Undoubtedly, students use generative AI more and more these days, and it's not just about this. Besides the example that I am showing right now, there are many other ways on how students are using Gen AI or generative AI. Hopefully, we know that not all AI use is misuse. And there are some studies confirming that AI is actually very helpful to students when it comes to study support. Let's talk about that. Now, here are the common ways students leverage generative AI tool, which we can find in www.titanpartners.com entitled Gen AI in Higher Education. And I'm pretty sure that the link will also be posted in the chat for this. So we have grouped them in 4 categories. The first one is content creation. Here, AI tools are used to generate ideas for essays, or let's say even brainstorm research topics, draft research outline, or even create presentations. So the clear example for this is a student asking ChatGPT to create an essay outlining or an essay outline somehow, outlining about a topic or a certain topic that he wants or she wants to have. Then we have the second one, which is writing improvement and language learning. Students do use AI for error detection, specifically to detect grammar and spelling mistakes or even typos, which is I'm pretty sure that most of us are doing, or most of your students are doing. AI is also being used to create a specific response based on your preferred tone of speech. For example, there could be a student prompting ChatGPT to rewrite a statement in an academic tone. And for non-native speakers, AI tools are used to translate text from one language to another while ensuring the grammar and the styles are correct. One of the challenges about AI in Asia Pacific is localization, as most generative AI tools are trained using Western data for now. And the third one is personalized learning. Students use generative AI to understand difficult concepts. It is simply prompting AI to explain concepts in simplest way or in layman's term for easy understanding. It will also summarize and take notes. And interestingly, this is familiar with a few of us already, as even Zoom has been doing the same thing now. It will also analyze and interpret data, as well as generate practice materials for studying. Then the last but not the least that we have in this table is AI being used as an on-call writing assistant. Well, basically, AI will summarize or is used to summarize and paraphrase, assist in writing assessment or assignment, and even answer homework questions entirely. And the example of this is the sample that I showed earlier, simply asking or the student simply prompting AI to answer a question that they posted in the prompt box, or even providing some instruction on how to generate a certain task. So with this being said, there's no doubt that generative AI is such a versatile tool that can assist students in various stages of learning. But it is also important to note that Gen AI should not be a replacement for critical thinking and human creativity. It is important to understand not only that students are actually using these AI tools, because, well, they do, but also how they use it so we can ensure its ethical use. This will help us develop effective ways to regulate the use of AI that promotes academic integrity and avoid misconduct like plagiarism and total reliance on the tool. While these tools have really great potential in education, there's a concern that students might become overly dependent on them. And we believe that some regulation must or might be necessary to ensure responsible use of this technology. And I think it's about time for me to launch a poll. So, having said that, we will share a poll question asking, are you allowing students to use AI generated writing in their assessment? So there you go. Now I hope that everybody can see it right now, and let me know if you can't. Here we are encouraging everyone to participate and let us know your thoughts. There you go. Okay, and we're getting a lot of answers this time. All right, so I think that's about it. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll now and share it with everybody. So let me just end the poll. There you go. Okay, so time's up, and thank you so much, everyone, for your active engagement. Right now, what I am sharing is the answer to the poll that we just released. And the question, once again, is, are you allowing students to use AI-generated writing in their assessment? 34% of the responders said that, yes, I set clear expectation. And that's good. And that's really amazing to know. We also have responders, okay, who said that, no, I do not allow it at all. 18% of the respondents that we have said, no, because I don't know how to set expectations. And we also have respondents who says, or who answered, yes, but I don't know how to set expectations. So it's just so right that we ask this, because we will now talk about AI implementation in your classroom. And this is one of the most interesting things, because I'm pretty sure that you will also be asking yourself about this. So in here, once again, thank you so much, everyone. And see. So it's obvious that AI is not going anywhere. And it's not just like a trend that will soon fade away. AI is likely here to stay and will just continue to evolve. And it's evident in your answers. So, well, focusing on regulating the AI or the use of AI for positive outcome is the key. There are various approaches to consider in regulating the AI use, and one of them is the scale entitled AIAS, which we are sharing for you to adapt if this conforms with your institution's policies and even task expectations. So let's see this. Here is the AI assessment scale, or AIAS, which is a framework designed and developed by a team of researchers, Leon First, Mike Perkins, Jasper Rowe, and Jason McCrow. You can find the QR code in here as well, and the link is shared in the chat. And we think that this is a great source and is going to be very helpful to set expectations about the use of AI with your students. And this framework can serve as your starting point, offering you possible guidelines, but also we know that you might have additional considerations and ideas specific to your class. So now let's talk about these levels one by one. Okay. There you go. So we are now in the level 1, which says no AI. At this level, students are not expected to use AI generative tools in completing the assignment, as using AI will not be beneficial. A clear example for this is that you are evaluating your students' understanding about certain events in history, which can be through, let's say, discussion or debates or even essay creation. With this being said, the sample screenshot that I'm showing you right now is our new AI writing report interface showing 0% of AI. Remember, the task expectation in this level is AI must not be used at any point. So you should expect to see 0% in the report. And me, as a teacher looking at this, it is telling me that the student followed and met my expectations in the assignment. What you are not supposed to see here is a percentage or a score. Because, well, if you found a percentage over here, then we can conclude that the student didn't follow the requirements at all. So now let's move on to level 2. Okay. There you go. So we have level 2, and the level 2 is AI-assisted idea generation and structuring. So here, AI can be used for brainstorming, note-taking, helping tasks like, let's say, transcription, outlining, and even suggesting improvements. However, the final submission must be free of any generative AI content. So it's basically like entirely your own work in the final output. So in the AI writing report, 0% is obviously expected. Because again, okay, AI can only be used for brainstorming, but it's not supposed to be in the output or in the final output. So as an instructor, checking or seeing this, I don't have to worry about this submission as the report is not showing any AI-generated content. So now, once again, you are not supposed to be seeing any percentage. Because if you do, it only means that your student didn't follow your instruction or your assignment expectation. And with that, you might want to have a formative conversation or a discussion with your student about that. That's level 2. Now let's check level 3. So with level 3, we have the AI-assisted editing. Here, AI is permitted for checking and improving students' writing. Here, we could expect that we have the original writing of the student paraphrased by an AI paraphrasing tool. And I'm pretty sure that we are all aware about that. Because, well, okay, the good example for this is a student using Grammarly to improve writing, just to check the grammar, the tone, and all. This AI-assisted editing implies that AI can be used to make improvements to the quality and clarity of the student originally created work. To improve, just to improve the final output. But no new content can be created using AI. And if the student is using AI to edit the original work, the unedited writing should be included in the appendix. There you go. So at this stage, we would likely to see 0% still. Because once again, original writing that has been paraphrased but by an AI paraphrasing tool would not be highlighted as AI-generated text. So in the sample, I can tell my student met my expectation in the submission. So again, I don't have to worry about that, but I just have to check if there are some information that I need to see in the appendix. But in the case you've seen something like this, it is in this sample right now, it is showing purple highlights indicating that an AI-generated text was paraphrased by an AI writing tool, or an AI-generated text was paraphrased by an AI tool or an AI paraphrasing tool. And we can also see 23%. So this is very clear that this student used AI to generate the text and then copy the text and paraphrased it using the AI paraphrasing tool. That is why Turnitin has detected it, which is obviously does not align with the task expectation about this level or in this level. Because again, the student should create writing, okay, like originally themselves, but then grammar assistance is okay. So now if you set your assignment like this and your student abided to your expectation, you're not supposed to be seeing any AI content in the submission. So that's for level 3. And again, that is AI assisted editing. Now let's go to level 4. There you go. So for level 4, AI task completion and human evaluation. So in this level, AI is used to complete a major element of the task, basically helping students to create significant portions of the work. However, students are encouraged to be critical on the accuracy, completeness, and overall quality of the information, just to ensure that the student understand the AI contribution and not just simply accepting it as it is. And it is also a must that if the student use AI tool to generate content, it must be properly cited. It is depending on the institution's guidelines for citing AI generated content. In the sample that I have in here, it is showing a submission with evidence of AI generated content on the report. You can see that we have highlighted or it's highlighted in blue. And given that I am the instructor checking this, I can confirm that this is in line with my task. Like my task expectation, I mean. As I am permitting my student to use AI. But still, I have to ensure that it is properly cited according to the policy or regulation in place in the institution. Now, when I checked and I confirm that no acknowledgement of AI has been made, I would need to address this with my student. Still, it's important to note that AI score should not be used as a sole basis for action or be a grading measure by instructor. We strongly believe that further investigation is required to determine if academic misconduct has happened in the submission. And another thing, whenever we are showing a percentage in our session right now, we are not advocating for it as an acceptable AI threshold. We believe that this will depend on the amount of qualifying text in a submission. And this 67% is just merely an example. And it's just telling that you may likely find a percentage in here just because we are expecting students to use AI tool in this submission or in this particular assessment. Okay, now let's move on to the last level. There you go. So the last level is showing full AI. AI is permitted to use all throughout the assessment. And this means that to complete the task, it is required, or AI is required to use. An example could be a student required to use AI avatar in production of a video content. So with an assignment with fully AI content, it is undeniably to see an AI score. So in the sample that I'm showing, we can see 100% AI content. And yes, you may see a score. However, I am allowing the use of AI completely. So that is completely okay with me as an instructor. Still, if you see a score, the final decision on whether any misconduct has occurred is depending on the instructor's or reviewer's judgment. This indicator, this report, should be used as a means to start a formative conversation with your student or even use it to examine the submitted paper according to your institution's policies. And I'm pretty sure that we will be talking about that later. So once again, okay, so with this, we just showed you the AIAS, or the AI Assessment Scale, designed by First, Perkins, Bro, and McBro, which is documented in a research paper found in the link that we posted in the chat. All right. So we just showed on what are the things that you can do, okay, when you are seeing AI scores or AI indications, okay, in your student submission. And now, at this point, we are aware of how generative AI works, how students are using them these days, and how we can, as educators, regulate the use of the tools for ethical use. This time, I'd like to talk about our AI writing indicator. So let's start with the basics. Starting with the basics, okay? The AI score or the AI report can only be accessible via similarity report. Remember that the percentage generated by Turnitin AI detection or indicator is different and independent from the similarity score. They're not the same. They will not affect each other. The AI highlights are not visible in the similarity score. Right now, AI is visible, or this report is visible to instructors, and students do not have any access to it just yet, unless shared by their educators. Then, the AI or the Turnitin AI detection model will generate what we call the percentage score or AI score, which is an overall percentage of qualifying text within the submission that has been determined, generated by an AI tool. So when we say qualifying text, it means prose text. These are individual sentences written in standard grammatical structures, like long-form sentences in an essay, dissertation, or articles. We'll get to know more about that in the coming section. And next, the AI generated, or in the report, AI or all AI generated texts are highlighted in blue, which you may already been seen before when you are accessing the reports. And now, the newest one to come is that we will also highlight AI generated text that was likely AI paraphrased. These content will be highlighted in purple. So you can see that in the screenshot provided in the left-hand side of the screen. And you've seen some of these in my presentation or in the slides earlier. And you will be able to see these updates in a couple of weeks. So now, we understand how students are using AI, and we already know some ways in regulating AI already. You might be asking this time, are AI detectors still relevant to use if we are already allowing the use of AI? And the answer there is actually yes. So let me show you the statistics. In the statistics that we have, we can see that as of March 29, 2024, Turnitin has reviewed more than 207 million papers since our launch last April 2023. And of that 207 million, 6.3 million were flagged as having at least 80% of AI writing present. And nearly 22.9 million were flagged as having over 20% AI writing present. So these numbers here on the right-hand side highlights the importance of AI detectors, as they allow us to identify students who are using AI tools in their submission. We cannot regulate something we don't know. Having insights provided by a trusted AI detector will give you the ability to know if there is a misuse in AI tools, if your students are just relying on AI outputs alone. And look, honestly speaking, regardless of which approach you'd like to follow, you'll always want to know if AI has been used as part of your student's work. And now let's talk about how it works. So, how does Turnitin AI writing detector work? So when a document is submitted to Turnitin, the content is now broken into segments, which are analyzed, okay, here, which are analyzed in an overlapping manner to capture portions in context. Here you can see brackets, so there you go. We then give each segment a prediction score between 0 and 1 to determine whether it is written by human or by AI. So if the score is closer to 0, it has a strong prediction to be written by human. Now, if it predicts that the entirety of the sentence was generated by AI, it will receive a score of closer to 1, or basically 1. Now, we take those prediction score and average them out on a sentence level and determine which sentence to highlight. And only sentences with high prediction scores are highlighted in an AI writing report. And these are basically the highlights that can be seen by an instructor. We have some here, there you go, that are not highlighted. And once again, we are only highlighting portions with strong prediction score of AI authorship. So if the prediction is very low, or in the middle or close to the middle, we will not highlight that. There won't be any highlights. And yes, sometimes we're going to miss some sentences that might have been written by AI. And that's all right. Why? Because our focus is to do no harm. But we acknowledge that sometimes there are also some instances where false positives occur. Note that our detector is tuned for students' safety. It is tuned to be on the side of caution and give the students the benefit of the doubt. We would rather not highlight a content that is written by AI instead of highlighting a content that has been written by human. And the thing is, we want you to have confidence in the AI writing score and be confident in using the tool. But you should understand that you have to take this result with a grain of salt, meaning view this with skeptical attitude and consider other evidences there is to confirm any suspicion that you have in your student's document. So I'm talking about false positive earlier. So our false positive rate is 1%, which is very, very low. And if you'd like to know more about the steps and figures behind the statistics, and even the testing protocols that we are conducting, I'm encouraging everybody to take a look at this white paper that we've released. And you may simply scan the QR code, and the clickable link is already in the chat or will be posted in the chat for easy access. There you go. And next. So we also have another article about Turnitin detector showing no significant bias against English language learners, or ELL, which includes the discussion of false positive rates. Once again, you may scan the QR code for more information, and links will be posted in the chat too. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll hand over to Cynthia to have a quick walkthrough in our AI writing report and share you all some other things that you need to check within the document. Once again, this is Nina, and thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Nina, for your comprehensive guidance. Now that we know how our students might use Gen AI and how Turnitin's model works, let's take a look at Turnitin's AI writing detection report. Here, I'm going to show you how to access the AI report via Feedback Studio. What you'll need to do is, in the similarity report, navigate to the bottom right, and you'll see your AI icon and your AI score. And once you click into that, that will launch the AI writing report. In the coming weeks, we'll be releasing a new similarity report view. I'll now switch over to that view. I'd like to show you how you can access the AI report from this view, so you will know where to access the report once that update has been released. So giving it some time. All right. So to get to the AI report, we're going to navigate to the tab over here and select the AI writing tab. Now, I won't be speaking about the new similarity view, but if you are interested to learn more, feel free to speak about this with your Turnitin administrator or with your account manager. And as a reminder, some of the things that you'll see here today are new and upcoming. So please do not panic if what you see on my screen is not the same as yours, all right? So turning our focus back on the AI writing report, as you can see here on the left, this is the full AI writing score of 100%. So it says 100% has been detected as AI. And any words that Turnitin has determined to be written by AI will be highlighted in blue over here. If I click on this icon, the info icon, it tells us that our model only processes qualifying text in the form of long-form writing or prose sentences. Now, the key thing to note here is the phrase qualifying text, because Turnitin is best suited for academic writing, which are submissions that have been written in long sentences and paragraphs. So if I were to zoom out of this document and just scroll down the page, I will see most of these long form sentences have been highlighted, but once we reach the reference section, we can tell that it has not been highlighted as been written by AI because references are not written in a prose format. So this text here is not included as part of the AI writing detection score of 100% as it is not qualifying text. Now, if I scroll up the page here, we can see the same thing in these section headers above. So for example, introduction and the concept of emotional intelligence. So although this entire paper was an AI generated output, you can see that some parts were not highlighted because they are not considered to be qualifying text. So one thing you'll need to do as you review your students' work is to consider how much of it was actually written in a prose format. If your students have been writing in bullet points or in a table format, we will not determine if those texts have been written by AI, and it will not be included in this overall score over here. I would also like to point out that this AI report does not work in the same way as the similarity report, in the sense that we will not highlight the text and tell you which AI tool was used to generate that text. We will only report which text we have high confidence in that has been written by AI. So thinking back to the AI assessment scale that Nina presented earlier, this paper of 100% probably doesn't meet any of the levels as the whole paper was AI generated with no acknowledgement of AI use. You can then perhaps start your discussion with your student by understanding what their expectation of the assignment is. Now, let me show you a different example in a different paper by clicking in the drop-down bar over here and going over to a different student. This will now lead us to the portion of today's presentation where I'll show you how to analyze this report. Once again, I'll access the AI report by clicking on this tab here in the new similarity view. Now, this report includes a new feature that will be released in the coming weeks. Nina has explained this before, but this new feature will be able to highlight AI-generated text that was AI paraphrased. All right, so let's first ask ourselves, how much of the student's work is qualifying text? As I scroll through this document, I can see that most of these sections have been written in long sentences and paragraphs. So we can consider, because most of this document was written in prose format, that this score of 22% will apply to the overall document of 3,600 words. If we look to the right here with this new feature, we can now see sections of our students' work that have either been written by AI in blue, or there have been AI-generated text that was AI paraphrased in purple. Our next step then is to identify our areas of interest to focus our investigation. The highlighted section here is the introduction, which may not be a good section for us to investigate, as introductions can be pretty typically brief and generic. So then let's move on to the next AI-generated section by clicking on the blue portion over here, and we'll jump over to that highlighted section here. Now we have quite a significant section that has been highlighted to be written by AI. So this is a good area for us to consider conducting our investigation to pick up any clues or hints that the student has indeed used a Gen AI tool for this section of writing. That way, you can bring this sort of clues and evidences to your students as part of your formative discussion with them. And remember that when doing this, we should always keep our task expectation in the back of our minds. For example, when I read the section text over here, I can see that although it has been highlighted, I can see a citation that says OpenAI 2024, which is ChatGPT. And if I check the reference, I can also see a reference being included. So in this particular example, this student has met my task expectation, specifically meeting the 4th level of the AI assessment scale. And therefore, I accept this highlighted text here. I definitely recommend that you use this tool not as a way to catch out or accuse anyone of academic misconduct, but more of a tool for you to engage in discussions with your students about their work or their understanding of the assignment. So that was a walkthrough of Turnitin's AI writing report. In summary, the AI detection percentage is not a judgment tool. First, you need to consider the quantity of qualifying text, then identify the areas of interest and focus our investigation there. And finally, as we begin through our investigation, have a think about what other additional clues that we can use to uncover AI use. So this is where we enter the next section, where I introduce to you what else you can look out for to uncover such usage. The main piece of this is really Turnitin's AI writing report, but then there are a range of other things you can look for in your students' work that's going to make us more confident to move forward in having that discussion. Before we dive in, let's look at this from the student's perspective. If you didn't allow the use of a Gen AI tool like ChatGPT in your classroom, a student who might be using this might try to use it anyway and try to hide the fact that they've used it in their assignment. One of the ways that students can try to do this is by manipulating the text in their submission. Highlighted for you in this similarity report is the flag icon on the right here, using the integrity flags feature. We always encourage you to investigate text flags before you proceed with reviewing the rest of the student's work, as it highlights any potential text manipulation. As you can see here, there are 2 integrity flags being raised. Now have a look at these 2 paragraphs over here. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong or anything that stands out to me, and they look like general text. However, once I click on the integrity flags and review it, I can see that there are some things going on that I wouldn't normally expect to see in my students' work. For more information about the flags and what they can tell us, we do have a resource guide that you can refer to. You may scan the QR code up on the screen here, or click on the link my colleague will share or has shared in the chat. It'll take you to a detailed guide on understanding the feature and what it means. We can also start to look for unusual language in our students' work. If you are really familiar with the way your students write, you may be able to identify changes in their vocabulary and pick out words that they would not normally use. You might also start to encounter some unusual phrases. So in this passage of text, we can see that the student has used the phrase antioxidants in apples, exceptionally quercetin, lowers cholesterol intensity by tethering to fatty molecules, and tandem to make apples a useful friend in conserving a fit heart. Reading back, these are quite strange words to use. And even sometimes when you read the sentence again, the sentence structure doesn't flow quite well. Our AI and similarity report will help you identify this, so you can use all the tools available to you in Turnitin to find evidence of this behavior. You might even investigate the source text, and you can see that this is the original text down below, and read it and compare it side by side so you can understand that this was the original words and that was what the student has submitted. So we can start to see unusual uses of phrases with partial matches to the original text, which could mean that they have been that the words have been paraphrased using that have been paraphrased itself. So this particular example only applies to human written text that is AI paraphrased. We may also be able to see changes in spelling between the US and UK spellings. For example, here we've got flavor with a U and flavor without a U. So inconsistencies within the student's work may indicate that they have perhaps copied work from another author, or that they have used a paraphrasing tool to help them in their writing. Next, we can look for inconsistent formatting. So in this example here, I can see words or text that are of different font sizes or that are even in different font types. As you know, sometimes students will just copy and paste the text from the AI tool into their assignment without paying attention to the formatting of their work. So this will be a helpful thing for you to raise in your discussions with your students, as it shows an inconsistent approach of their writing. Next are inclusions of prompts in their work. So here is a screenshot of a ChatGPT output based on the prompt. As you can see here, ChatGPT starts off its response by saying, certainly, here are the references, so on and so forth. Now, if I check out my students' reference list, I can see that they have also inserted that prompt or that text from ChatGPT. What this tells us is that the student has gone to ChatGPT, asked for references, and copied the entire output and pasted it into their work without checking anything. Sometimes students make small mistakes like this that provides us with clear indication that they have used AI tool as part of their work. Another thing that AI tools do is that they hallucinate, meaning they will sometimes come up with fake information that sounds correct. As an expert in this subject, as you review the student's work and assess that some of the work goes against what you know, so for example, apples have the lowest glycemic index of any fruit. If apples were your subject of expertise, you would know that this is not true, and it was made up by ChatGPT. So you can look for hallucinations or incorrect information in your students' work as evidence of AI usage. Another thing you can look for is the lack of quotes and evidence. Another common thing that AI tools don't do is that they don't provide genuine sources in the outputs that they generate. So they don't typically provide any citations or concrete evidence of the work that you're using. For example, this text here has been flagged as a partial similarity match, but does not have any citation. So I would encourage you to have a read of the content, as it could be another sign that they have used an AI tool. As an expert, you are also in a great position to evaluate whether these particular references are actually correct. One of the things ChatGPT cannot do is generate valid and real sources. So go through and check if these references are actually by these specific authors. Their names might be correct, but check if the papers have actually been released in those years with that same title. We are looking for inconsistencies so we can ask our students more in-depth questions about their approach in the way they work. We may also see invalid sources. So if we scrutinize the sources over here, we can see that both are in regards to Apple, but one of them is actually talking about the Apple Watch, not the Apple fruit. So this is where ChatGPT has made a mistake. They've included how the Apple Watch can help with heart health, but not how the Apple fruit is actually full of nutrients. So reviewing your students' references more carefully and picking out anything odd is going to be helpful in spotting any AI use in their work. As experts in your field, you will be very familiar with the different types of authors or works that are used in a particular subject. All right, to recap, these are the additional evidences we can look for that you could use as a rule of thumb. Before anything else, review any raised integrity flags for signs of text manipulation, as these are deliberate attempts that the students have made to deceive detection. Use the areas of interest from the AI writing report to focus your investigation in the similarity report and look for those evidence. We can then review the language and changes in words and spelling, and search for inconsistent formatting and even inclusion of prompts in their submission. We're looking for changes of styles in the areas that the AI writing report has highlighted to be written by AI. And finally, as experts in the field, you can scrutinize their source, references, and even check content to see if they are real. So these are some of the things you can start looking out for in your students' work. As a reminder, when finding additional evidence, consider if they are aligned with your task expectations of the assessment. So now you're probably wondering, what's next? What do I do with all this evidence? Now, I'm going to briefly speak about how you may consider approaching your student if you suspect that the student has potentially used AI in their work, when you have maybe not allowed them to do so. As a reminder, we do encourage that you use Turnitin's tools to engage discussions with your students rather than using it as a judgment tool for academic misconduct. Before we go through the 7 practical steps, it's important that you also remember that your institution may already have specific policies and procedures in place to deal with AI writing, so please ensure that you are following those protocols. All right. So first off, you need to collect clear and definitive documentation to build your case. Then you need to create a plan for the conversation you're about to have. If you have never had any sort of conversation like this before, we do have resources that can guide you on how to begin. We'll be including this in a follow-up email of this webinar as well. It's important for you to consider all avenues and outcomes, and if possible, think ways to involve your student in the decision-making process, to encourage them to take ownership and to create a formative learning experience for them. During the conversation, we recommend focusing on documentation and evidence and avoid any hypothetical situations and assumptions, as there may be other explanations to what has occurred. We should always encourage student reflection throughout the process and allow them to have the opportunity to ask more questions. Then decide on the appropriate next steps based on the outcomes of your discussions with your students as per your institution's policies and guidelines. Finally, ensure that your students know what help is available to them. And on the slide here, as you can see, we've got another QR code. It's leading you to a Turnitin resource page that may help students understand the importance of ethical AI use within their studies. Before we wrap up today's presentation, I want you to remember that detection is only a very small piece of the overall AI writing puzzle. And what we've been looking at today is just a single piece of the entire picture. The puzzle I have on this slide is going to help you conduct a deep dive on all the topics we've covered today. It looks at the AI writing tools and the broader impacts that they have in education. The way that this interactive puzzle works is if you're interested in a specific piece of the puzzle, simply click on the puzzle tile and it will launch the resource for you. Once again, we have another QR code for you. Otherwise, my colleague will share a link to this in the chat. All right. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar of Interpreting Turnitin's AI Writing Report. You'll now be more across ways students use Gen AI, how you'll be able to use Turnitin's AI Writing Report to help you understand your students' work and align it with your task expectations. And you should also now know what to do if something doesn't look right. Before we open up the floor to Q&A, I would like to invite you to please take out your mobile devices, scan the QR code for the final time, and help us complete a 2-minute survey to share your thoughts on today's session. I'll now invite Michael to the floor to perhaps highlight some questions that we could possibly answer.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you very much, Nina, as well. That was a really wonderful presentation, and it's been great to see lots of thumbs up and love heart emojis appearing throughout the presentation. It's great to see that you're enjoying and finding this content really valuable. I want to leave that QR code up on the screen just a little bit longer. And there is a clickable link to the survey in the chat as well. So there's one question I do want to get to, but it's going to involve us changing the screen. So I'll leave that one for the moment. There is a number of questions that are being asked around the use of Grammarly to edit work, perhaps to improve the grammar or the grammatical structure of the writing, perhaps because the student is an English language learner and they would like to write the document themselves, but then have a tool like Grammarly improve the grammatical structure of the document. And at that point, people are wondering if that will be detected as AI or not. So I thought perhaps we did have a slide that Nina presented on earlier in this presentation. We'll leave the QR code up just for a little bit longer. We will jump back to this slide to show you. But the answer here is that if the student has written the document themselves and then used a grammar checking tool to make some slight grammatical adjustments, the hallmarks of the human writing will remain intact. And so that document is likely to not be detected as AI. If the student uses Grammarly to overly edit the work, and you might see Grammarly can do things like adjusting the tone So the student might ask it to rewrite the document in a more academic style. Or, because Grammarly includes generative AI now, it can add whole new ideas and whole new paragraphs of content to the document. So if the student uses Grammarly to insert lots of new information into their work, it is likely that that AI-generated content would be detected. So perhaps now at this point, Cynthia, you're in control of the slide deck at the moment. So maybe if you could just switch back to that slide. I'm thinking of level 3.
Okay.
It's around, there we go.
Slide 17.
Perfect, thank you.
Hang on, I'm just gonna move some Zoom controls out of the way. Okay, there you go.
So the suggestion that came through from the research is that if you would like to allow students to use a grammar checking tool to improve the overall quality of their writing, a suggestion is to ask the student to also include the original draft as an appendix. So they'll have that sitting at the bottom and their altered or improved content sitting at the top. What we're showing here is that overall, neither the top nor the bottom, so the final submission or the appendix, should have any AI detected on it, because overall, if the student has just made some slight grammatical changes using Grammarly, that shouldn't be detected. On the next slide, however, you just click through that next one. Oh, just back one, sorry. If there is some highlighting that comes up in that scenario, this should only be in the top part of the document, definitely not in the appendix. But if there is text that's detected here, our new paraphrase detection is actually detecting text that was AI generated and then AI paraphrased. So in this instance, it would indicate that the student had actually used AI to generate the text in the first place and then run it through another tool to paraphrase it. So this would go against the expectations that you set there. Lots of questions coming in asking if this session will be shared. So yes, we will share the recording with you. We will share the slide deck with you, and we will share all of the links to all of the resources that we've mentioned. I see a few laughing faces pop up there. You must have realized that we're reminding you, yes, this is recorded. Yes, this will be shared. We've said it a few times. The last question, just with the last minute that we've got, Cynthia, a few people have been asking, how did you get to the AI report? Would you mind going back to the product itself and showing how you access the AI report?
Sure.
And maybe, if you could go right back to the assignment inbox stage, that would be helpful.
Okay, great. Let me just refresh this so I know I'm logged in. Okay. So this is the assignment inbox where typically you would get all your student submissions. And to access the AI writing report, you'll first need to actually access it in the similarity report. So here we'll just click on the similarity score to do so. So once we've got it up, this is the new similarity report view as a reminder. So some of you might not have seen this before, which is fine. But if you're using the new view, or if you will use it, the AI writing report should be accessed over here. But let's return to the classic view, which is the current view that most of us should have. And to access it from this view, which is what most of us would probably be more familiar with, is if we navigate to the bottom right where it says AI with the AI score, just click on it, and it will launch a separate window with the same report. So that's how you would access those AI reports.
Thank you so much for that. We have hit the end of our hour, so we might wrap it up there. I don't know, Nina or Cynthia, did you have a wrap up planned for us today to finish off?
I just wanted to say, or we wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We hope that you've learned a lot more about the about AI and how Turnitin can help align that with your task expectation. So thank you, Sia ni, terima kasih banyak, and maraming salamat po. And I hope you guys have a lovely rest of the week.
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful wrap up. Look at all those love hearts coming up on the screen. Isn't that the best thing to see? Have a wonderful afternoon and evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.